Today's video contains spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I highly suggest that you go and beat the game, and then come back to this video. You have been warned. If you've beaten Final Fantasy VII Remake's first game, you're probably eagerly awaiting the next one in the series. I know that I seriously cannot wait to get my hands on Game 2. Well, today we got some fresh translations from the Final Fantasy VII Ultimania that it's going to be giving us some brand new details on what's going to be happening with the second part of the game, when we can expect to see it, and some story changes, or non-story changes depending on how you look at it. These translations from the Ultimania come from Twitter user at @itaikimochi, so a big thank you to you. Kitase answering how many parts, responding quote, "We have a general idea of how the story will play out, but we haven't decided exactly how many parts, nor can we confirm anything. There's speculation that it'll be 3 parts, but we're just doing things one step at a time." When asked about the next part, Nomura replied quote, "Depends on how many parts the overall story will be. If we divide the story into large parts, it'll take longer to make. If we divide it into smaller, more detailed sections, then developing it will be faster. I hope to release the next one as soon as possible." I think that the big message here is that we're going to be getting a lot more than just 3 parts. And though these parts are going to be smaller in size, they're going to be delivered a lot faster, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does make you wonder how long the remake series is going to go on. Nomura then continues by saying something quite interesting. "We wanted to have the last boss fight take place at the highway in Midgar, which arises questions that I cannot answer. There is a character who's alive, which leads to a great mystery." And obviously the person that he's talking about here has to be Zack. Pretty much confirming that for some reason or another, Zack is indeed alive. Very ironically, Kitase then says, quote, "We're not drastically changing the story and making it into something completely different than the original. Even though it's a remake, please assume the story of FF7 will continue as FF7 always has." Those are two seemingly conflicting statements. On one hand, you have Kitase saying that the story will continue as it always has, and then on the other hand, you have Nomura saying that a character that should be dead, which almost undoubtedly is going to be Zack Fair, is alive, and that the story is going to play out as it always has. Now, the popular theory suggested that Zack was alive in a different timeline, so it's possible that we'll just be following the events of Zack in the alternative timeline. But if Zack is alive and we see him in the next game interacting with Cloud, that dramatically changes the flow of Cloud's character arc. And not just Cloud's either, but also Aerith. Now, some people say that with Cloud's character arc that Zack already died, or he was under the impression that he did, and so all that damage is already done to him. However, in my personal opinion, I don't view that as the same thing. I think most people who witnessed a traumatic death of a friend would be very different if they could just see or interact with that person again, especially if they're just alive and okay and they weren't actually dead the whole time. That being said, he did assume Zack's memories, so he would still be a little messed up in the head. My only assumption for what Kitase is saying about expecting FF7 to play out as it normally does is that the same key events will take place, but the build-up to them will be entirely different. As far as the game being more than 3 parts, oh boy. I think that a lot of people were so satisfied with this first part that they're open to the idea of more than 3 parts. But honestly, it really does beg the question of how long it's going to take before we get the full Final Fantasy VII story, even if they consistently deliver these games every 2 years. Which honestly, 2 years might be generous considering how much work they have to do in such a short amount of time. And let's arbitrarily say that there is a total of 4 or 5 games, which means that there are 3 to 4 parts remaining, meaning that completely finishing Final Fantasy VII's story arc will take about 6 to 8 years. Remember all the people saying they were going to wait until the story was complete before they bought in? I will tell my grandchildren to tell your grandchildren hello whenever they're playing the complete series of FF7R. It was thought that the second game could go all the way up to Eris's death, but now I think that is pretty unlikely. And it really makes you wonder where part 2 will end. With that said, Ultima Weapons, I want to know what you think. What do you make of all of this? And when do you think we can expect part 2? Subscribe, click the bell icon, and let me know in the comments below. And if you value the content on this channel, consider becoming a patron for the Night Sky Prince, where I am supported by fantastic people like Josh S, who help keep this channel alive and allow me to keep making all of these Final Fantasy VII Remake videos for you guys. So if that means a lot to you, be sure to check the link in the description below. Shout out to Josh and the rest of the Ultima community.